This one is going to be called the Gulf of Mexico. Before we start, I'm going to indulge in this ramen noodles. I have no shame in my game, you know? I'm really thugging it. Today, I had celery and peanut butter. That was my breakfast. And then I went for my morning run, took a shower, drank some tea, and now I'm eating at 6 o'clock Pacific time. But I know how to cook. I actually have a video coming to y'all soon about me frying chicken. I did that yesterday. I made some fried chicken with some white rice and broccoli. So I know how to cook, for sure. So, you know, I guess that's a little interlude. But let's get to it. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, right? It's called the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm gonna continue from where I left off last time, as usual. And I said that this would be the last time that I discuss my ex's uncle, but there were some things that I left out that regards his niece, which is, my ex. So while my ex was staying here, with me, there were situations where they would be on the phone and it would get real silent when I come around. So I don't know what that's about. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Like, I'm not gonna play stupid, So it's either A, they're speaking about things that they shouldn't be speaking about, or B, he may be afraid. So it might be a fearful thing. I really can't tell you. So, but it was one time where, I came home and she was on the phone with her uncle, which I don't have a problem with. That's your family, speak to your family, whatever. But I did have a problem with it overall because he was tied to a situation that put me in harm's way. So I really told her, I'm like, I really don't like the fact that you do communicate with him, but that's family. I can't say much about that. It's a sensitive subject. So I came home, she was on the phone with him, but she was on the phone with him in a towel. She just came out the shower and she had a towel on and she was naked underneath. So I'm peeping and, she on her beanbag and shit. And I'm looking and, they on the phone talking. And I'm like, I know I don't speak to any of my family members, in a, provocative fashion. I don't show my flesh and my body when I'm speaking to my sister or people that I care about. I make sure I'm covered up. You see, I'm covered up now. And yeah, I could show my body and all that shit, yeah, but that's not the point. I don't feel comfortable doing that with family or anybody at that. I'm a conservative person. So I'm looking at the shit, I'm peeping, I'm like, that's weird. I'm not jacking that. And then there was a time prior to this where, we first hit the West Coast, I got on the phone and, I was in the process of, looking for jobs, I just touched down. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to work at. And they on the phone and shit, I just had an interview. And then, when I come around, he just got quiet. And she got quiet too. What the fuck? Why the fuck y'all niggas so quiet? On the phone. So I feel like that's a red flag because whatever conversation you having, you should be able to be open about it. When I'm speaking to my folks and my people, y'all know me. I say whatever the fuck I want. I ain't got no filter, but of course I got respect. So I say what I gotta say. I get it off my chest. And when she come around, I don't like get all secretive and closed off. So maybe that's just something with her, but it's like that's what had me, leading thinking like it's a possibility we have something going on. And then, like I said, these things been happening in her family, so who knows if it's continuing or not. That's something that I'll never know, but I don't, like to be put in a blind and not knowing things. I'm a person that wants to be, you know, told what it is. I'm transparent. I need clarity at all times. I'm not trying to be, walking through a fog in the middle of a swamp and it's fucking gators and crocodiles and, fucking down there in Geechee world and Louisiana and shit. You see what I'm saying? I gotta watch out. So nah, I'm not really fond of that shit. I already had to learn a lot coming from where I come from, you know. So yeah, And then this guy, right? I don't know how true this is or not, but from what I heard, one of his friends passed, and I wasn't close to the situation. I don't know the guy, but one of his friends passed, and it happened in Florida. So it's like, you know, you just got a whole bunch of bad shit happening around you. You're not a good person to be around. It seems like, you could have had something to do with it. I don't know the truth, but I feel like, the way shit going down in the streets, like I said before, motherfuckers just backdooring. And it's possible that he could have backdoored his man just for the fun of it. Maybe they had a fallout. And he was like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. That's why I never, even, went OT with this guy. Went out of town and just went far locations, you know, where it's remote and you ain't got nobody around. But, I got people out there. So I was good either way. But even then, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you got people somewhere doesn't mean you straight. Anything can happen anywhere. It's all about the company you keep. So yeah, one of his mans passed, he got shot, allegedly. Because, I don't know how true it is, I don't see any articles and, stuff like that about it. So, I don't know how true it is. So, you got that piece too. So it's just like, and then, he was a guy that I think he likes jail, like you're getting out quick and you keep going back. It's like an addiction. And I understand it because, you get two hots in a cot, right? You get free housing. You're able to live off, assistance basically. It's like food stamps. It's like public housing. It's like all that shit. So you don't gotta worry about nothing. You just wake up, piss, shit, eat for free. So, and, he might go both ways. Who knows what happened to him while he was in there. And like I said, this guy, he was able to be bunkmates with somebody that we all knew. And, I'm going to refer to him as Dusthead, because that's all he did. He just got high. He was off pills, coke, anything, name that shit, Xans, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, It was one time me and the Chameleon, and I'm called an Uncle Officer Lincoln because I still, believe that he's police. So that's his nickname. It took me a while to come up with that nickname. So, that's gonna be the nickname I'm gonna use. So we was all in this huddle, hanging out in Connecticut. at Rogers Park, and Dusthead and Officer Lincoln and Chameleon, we all in a group, we chopping it up, having a good old time, and they talking about their jail stories and shit, and motherfuckers was talking about tolls and shit, you know, like it was like a weird like conversation. I don't got nothing against, people who indulge and partake into dealing with not opposite, the same sex. I mean, if that's what you do, that's what you do. But just, if that's what you do, wear that shit. You see what I'm saying? Like, come out the closet. You don't gotta, hide who you are. I have a cousin that's gay. The one I told you that gossip and run his mouth. He's gay. So I don't have a problem with gay people. If that's who you are, that's who you are. But they was just, talking about like they toes and motherfuckers is like twinkle twinkle little star. It's like some fairy shit. So I'm like, okay, motherfuckers was too happy talking about jail. I know if I was in jail, I'd be mad at everybody. I'd be like, damn, I don't want to motherfucking be here. And I'll still keep the peace, but I'll be like, nah, I'm not feeling this. I would need to, focus on me and get the fuck out. Like, and I wouldn't want to see that motherfucker again. I wouldn't be reminiscing on, oh, this happened and that happened. Nah, And then speaking about toes, Officer Lincoln and my ex, that time they were on the phone and she had her towel, and he talking about what his girlfriends did to him, as far as sucking on his toes and all this extra shit. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there quiet. I'm peeping. I'm like, I'm not gonna say a word because I want to see what motherfuckers is gonna say. That's that's one of my virtues. Silence is golden. When you don't say anything and you just observing and you listening, that's when all that bullshit come out. I'm like, yeah. So, I'm eavesdropping, but I'm really not eavesdropping. This is my motherfucking house. I ain't no motherfucking eavesdropping. My shit. So, what's that nigga name? I don't know his name, but the dude from Friday, that Mexican dude, he said, no closed doors. Not no closed doors. He said, yeah, no locked doors. Something like that, to that effect. Like, I want to know what's motherfucking going on in my crib. Like, the door could be closed, but it better not be locked. He said, no locked doors. I feel that shit. So I'm like, yeah, So, I'm listening. I'm like, man, that's not a conversation that I would have with my, niece or whatever. I don't care if we're in a similar age range, We can talk about shit, but I wouldn't be talking about, like, the intimacy of everything that we got going on. I don't talk to my little sis like that. See what I'm saying? I don't talk to my people like that. I'm very mature, so, and I have boundaries. So, that shit kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. And, everything happens for a reason. So, yeah. And, back to the title, the Gulf of Mexico. Florida. One of my, best friends that I was best friends with a while ago. And I ain't got no problem with him, but like I say, he was a gossiping dude, the Rastafarian, Jamaican, Yazine, like that nigga, his brother got killed, and they actually went out to Florida and then, bounced back to NY, and then his brother died. And his brother died going to a barbershop. So, that shit is crazy. And the barbershop is right in that neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? You Bronx River. And I'm like, yo, like, rest in peace to that boy, I liked him, We didn't speak much, but when I came over there, the Yardman house, and I met his father, I was tight with them people. So I'm like, dang. And, his brother was knuckleheaded, but, he didn't really have anybody to look up to. his mom's and his father was always going through stuff. And that's why, the Jamaican dude I was cool with, he had problems. So it's systematic, all the things that happen. And I'm like, damn, yo. And, I could tell, he had some street elements, but, he wasn't really a street guy. He just needed somebody to, guide him properly. And his bigger brother was not that guy. And like I said, I had to cut ties with him because, he was always fucking with people that I didn't fuck with, And it's crazy, the people that you don't fuck with, those are probably like people, you can actually have a relationship with because y'all just really have a sit down and settle your differences and everything's all right. But why is he always in the middle of it? See, and that's why I feel like, his brother dying, he might have had something to do with it. So I don't have anything to prove that, but, it's a possibility. And, he died going to the barbershop. So see, this is why I cut my own motherfucking hair. I do everything myself. Everything I need to do, I'm really, self-reliant and, able to be independent and do everything I need to do on my own. So, 1 second, right? I'm gonna show you how serious I am. See, look, man, I got 2 sets of clippers. You see what I'm saying? I got the ones you hook up to the wall joint. You gonna open that first. I got 2 sets of walls actually. So I got the one with the plug. I got this in Florida. And I take care of my own shit. You can see my shit fresh. I do my own shit. Fuck, am I going to a bar before I do my own tapers? I do my own hair. I know how to save money. And then I got these joints, the wireless joints. I just charge it. I use these today. I got these trimmers. Man, these trimmers are so clutch. I spent like $250 on these, but they're worth it. And they got me crispy. Great investment. Ice. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, like, back to what I was saying. Man, these niggas be getting killed fucking with the wrong people. Nah, that's why I don't fuck with everybody. Especially a lot of these artists out here, they be getting lined up by their mans because everybody want to be the top dog. And then they capitalize off of the death. So, if I'm gonna do this music thing or just, anything in general where I know I can gain notoriety or be known for something, I'm gonna move accordingly. I don't need a big entourage and a group of people that's gonna be envious that I'm providing. And I already been that guy. So I already been providing. And see, I had to leave because I felt the energy, and that's not even the reason why I left. The reason why I left is because it was a drought. The money was getting dry. It wasn't as, fruitful as it used to be. I'm like, man, I need a plan. So, I ditched and, I went to Florida and I stayed with my mom's for a little bit. Then I got my own apartment and that was cool. I got to see what Florida was like. And I was already, out there in Florida visiting my mom's. So I know what Florida is like. And, shout out Florida. I fuck with y'all niggas. Y'all niggas is crazy, man. Like I said, I ain't got no problem with y'all. I got plenty cousins out there. I got hella cousins out there. Niggas, they clean, but they get dirty, just like me. With a lot, like, I could see it, So, I hope y'all doing good out there, if y'all ever see this and come across y'all, So, yeah, I fuck with Florida the long way. And, I was out there in Tampa Sarasota and Bradenton, and it was one encounter where, you know, my mother invited me to go to a get together. And I know how I feel about gatherings. I'll do it, but I'm not really a social person. See, like, I'm a dude that stay in the crib. I'm a homebody, but I do go outside. If you look at my videos, there's places where I'm outside. I like being in nature, but I don't need to be around a whole bunch of motherfuckers. It depends on the situation. So it varies. So, we get there, and, it's my first time really, like, seeing my cousins that I never met. So, a couple of them I spoke to, and a lot of them I didn't. And there was a situation where, one of their people got shot at, so they already on 10, and I'm coming blinged out, iced out, on some New York shit. And, man, Florida, man, if you step there, you gotta humble yourself. And I was humble as far as my character, I was open to speak, but I'm quiet, I'm reserved. So I'm just peeping it, checking my ice out. Like, I had the diamonds and all that shit, and diamonds in my ear, watches, and, doing my thing. So, and, I'm young doing it. So it's like, what the fuck am I doing? It's probably peeping like, yo, yeah, he got this, he got that. I can't prove that, but I'm saying while I was there, they was just eyeing me. And then one of my cousins, I'm not gonna say his name, he kept walking past and he kept brushing me. I'm like, what the fuck you brushing me for? Like, if you wanna say hello, you can say hello. But see, that's the problem with my people, right? Niggas, they don't know how to just, say how they feel. They mask that shit with aggression, and anger, and pain. And instead of saying hello, he just kept walking past me. I don't know if that nigga was high. I don't know what he was on, but he was like on in some bullshit. So I'm like, man, look. So, and he kept doing that. So I'm like, is this nigga gonna end up like pushing me or trying to like sideline me and swing on me and try to get me for my jewels? And, like the whole time, I'm still moving how I'm moving. Like I said, I don't want to have to clap and, pull out and shit. So, but I'm prepared for that, And I'm like, dang, this ain't even my hood. I ain't from here. I'm gonna have to shoot the whole shit up. So I'm like, I don't want no problems. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's love. You see what I'm saying? But it's like, I was going through what I was going through already in the streets. I already had beef with a lot of people. So just like how they going through what they going through, I'm going through what I'm going through, mentally. So, like I said, I ain't got no problem with y'all, but that's how I feel. I'm like, so if I'm feeling like that, I'm like, let me get the fuck on. Let me get up out of here. I told my sister, I'm like, nah, yo, get me up out of here. And then, I explained to her what it was. And, my mom, she was like, oh, yeah, it's not even like that, this is your family. You have nothing to worry about. But nah, motherfuckers be getting hurt by family. So, and then I don't even know them. So I'm looking at it from a clean slate. I don't give a fuck if we blood. I just had a discussion about that in my last video. So it doesn't matter if we're related or not. Motherfuckers could just be a plate. I'm not gonna be a plate. Feel me? So I got low. You don't know what niggas going through. I'm sitting there shining and shit. Nah, man. So yeah, I'm going across, the East Coast, I-95, and what else did I do in Florida? When I was in Florida, it was weird. They didn't pay well. That's why I don't like Florida. I like the aesthetic as far as living and the space out there, and it's beautiful, beautiful people. But there's no way to like get rich out there, like unless you get in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's risky out there. It's just not worth it. So, I was really, going from job to job out there, doing what I gotta do to provide, and it just wasn't a comfortable situation. It was never like steady. So yeah, I got up out of there. Not saying that I won't go back. I love Florida. But if I go back, I gotta be up. You see what I'm saying? I gotta have everything I need. So I-95, I've been through I-95 a lot. I stopped in South Carolina, going to see my moms. I even went to go to, see my father, like I said, for the first time. So, I was in North Carolina and I seen him and I seen his family. And that was quite an experience for me. Felt good. It was nerve-wracking. It's like looking at a spitting image of you. It's like looking in the mirror. That shit is wild, man. So, it was alright, It was weird. I feel like a lot of people are weird, even I'm weird. I'm not perfect. So, yeah, I also went to Atlanta. That's what I really wanted to speak about. So, before I moved to Florida, I was staying in Connecticut, and it was my friend's birthday. One of my best friends at the time, we was doing business together, and I'm like, man, yo, I'm gonna take you out somewhere. Let's go someplace that you never been. So I took him to Atlanta with his name, the Chameleon guy. I'm calling Chameleon. I took him to Atlanta with another dude we was doing business with. He from Georgia, so it worked out for him. I'm like, yeah, man, we gonna go to your shit, see what it's like out here. So Atlanta was cool, man. I was trying to think of a nickname for the guy that I'm speaking about. What's a good nickname, man? I'm gonna call him E. I'm gonna call him E. Yeah, I don't want to put out too much info. So yeah, that nigga, yo, he's a wild dude, man. Just very energetic. He's an artist, But while we was doing business together, he came up short a lot of times. Like, oh, can you hold me down? I ain't got it all. I'm like, come on, man. I'm gonna hook you up, but you taking advantage, But let's stick to Atlanta right now. So we out there, we just browsing, going places, hitting Lenox Mall. We going to different malls. We went to Blue Flame. That shit was cool. Actually, met an engineer out there. We went to the studio. Shout out to Clean. He was cool, man. He was very humble. Like, the people in Atlanta are humble as fuck. I ain't gonna lie. So, see, like, I'm a New Yorker, but I never come off as rowdy. I don't come off disrespectful. So they showed me love. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you come in there with that bullshit, they gonna check you. That they ain't playing about that. It's like, that Southern hospitality is real out there. They really need acknowledgement. They need love. Atlanta reminds me a lot of Louisiana. It's very similar, as far as the culture and the people. But when I was out there, they showed us love. When I used to smoke, I even, purchased some, weed out there, just, fucking with the young niggas out there. I'm like, yo, who got the dope? We just came across some dudes. I'm like, yo, and you know somebody? And, tapped in and got us right. So, we was vibing. I got the Airbnb out there, with my homeboys at the time. We just doing it, hitting the strip club, Blue Flame, got one of our songs performed and played, and that was cool, slid the DJ a little bit of bread. He showed us love, even got some photos of that shit. Like, I'm happy we did that, got something out of it. I wanted to have fun out there for his birthday, the Chameleon's birthday. At the same time, handle business and, make connections. And, I love Atlanta though. I would like to live there, but it's too much going on, And once again, like Florida, they don't pay well. It's cheap out there, but they don't pay well. And with Florida, they don't pay well, and everything's becoming more expensive there. So that's why I left. Yeah. So, and like E, he tried to holler at my sister, and just like my ex's uncle, he even tried to holler at my sister. I'm like, man, yo, like, the fuck? Shit happens. I'm not even mad at y'all for doing that. You know, niggas gonna be niggas, right? You know, I'm like, dang, shit. Me and my sister look a lot alike, so I'm like, how the fuck y'all niggas be on, you know? And yeah, but hey, niggas were disrespectful, so I mean, it's life, you know. She's a beautiful young lady, and um, I'm gonna speak on my siblings in the next video, so I'm gonna hold back on the times and experiences that she and I had growing up in New York. So yeah, so Atlanta was cool. We hit up this this gumbo spot. It was some Louisiana soul food vibe. Man, it was banging. The food there was amazing. It's crazy. Like, man, we met this girl. I don't remember her name, but shit, she just pulled up, and I seen her. I'm like, man, I'ma holler. I'm like, yo, come eat with us at our table. She's just sitting there eating with us. Like, that shit was random as fuck. I'm happy I met her. I can't remember her name, and I lost her contact, but it was a cool experience. Like, you just eating with strangers. Like, that's how it is out there. Like, there's a love for real. So yeah, I ain't really like go ham in the strip club though. I wasn't like throwing a whole bunch of ones. Like I said, I went in there to do what I had to do, promote myself, have a little fun, and then I skedaddled. That was it. But Atlanta was a cool spot. Yeah. So that's it. I don't have that much else to say as far as the people that I dealt with from my past. That's old news. And now we're gonna be going forward into the new year with new ideas, new energy. And that's what it is. So I hope y'all have a wonderful day and take it easy. Peace.